The Zalthari had conquered 100 worlds, their sleek ships slicing through the void like knives through flesh. Cold, logical, and relentless, they cataloged every species they encountered, dissecting their strengths, mapping their weaknesses. Pain was their favorite metric, how much a creature could take before it broke, before its mind shattered or its body gave out. They'd seen it all. The Creve dissolving into whimpering puddles, the Torvax fracturing under pressure like glass. Then they found Earth, a small, unremarkable rock orbiting a middling star, its inhabitants softer than most. No scales, no venom, no natural weapons. Yet the Zalthari couldn't ignore the anomaly. Humans survived floods, wars, famines, diseases, things that should have wiped them out. Intrigued, the aliens decided to test them, to peel back the layers of this fragile species and find what kept them standing. They abducted dozens from Earth's surface, soldiers hardened by battle, civilians plucked from quiet lives, elders with creaking bones, even children still clutching toys. The Zalthari brought them to a research station orbiting a dying star, its red light pulsing through the facility like a heartbeat. The humans arrived confused, angry, terrified, but the aliens didn't care. Emotions were irrelevant. Only data mattered. They strapped their subjects to tables, wired them to machines that hummed with precision, devices to measure heartbeats, brainwaves, every twitch of muscle and spike of adrenaline. The tests began simply. Heat applied to skin, pressure on limbs, electric currents threading through nerves. The Zalthari watched, their multifaceted eyes unblinking, recording every response. At first, the results aligned with expectations. Humans flinched, gasped, cried out as pain crept in. But then the data shifted. Where other species begged or collapsed, humans endured. A soldier clenched his fists, veins bulging, refusing to scream. A woman bit her lip until it bled, staring down her captors. The machines beeped, registering numbers that climbed higher than the Zalthari had seen before. VaxKIR, the lead researcher, paced the control chamber, his mandibles clicking in thought. He'd dissected minds and bodies across the galaxy, yet these humans defied his models. Their screams weren't just surrender. They carried defiance, a raw edge that unsettled him. He tapped a claw against the console, reviewing the neural scans. Pain tolerance wasn't uniform, but it was stubborn, persistent, unlike anything in their archives. VaxKIR leaned closer to the screens, his curiosity sharpening. This wasn't just survival instinct. It was something deeper, something the Zalthari hadn't encountered. He issued a command through the station's comms, his voice flat and mechanical. Intensify the tests. The machines whirred louder, the red light flared, and the humans braced themselves. VaxKIR watched, expecting a breaking point. Instead, he saw the first flicker of something he couldn't name, not yet. The Zalthari turned up the dials. Pain surged through the station. Molten heat searing flesh, vices crushing bones, currents frying nerves until the air smelled of ozone. They'd broken species before with less. The Creve melted into submission. The Torvax went silent as their minds snapped. Humans should have followed suit, their soft bodies crumbling under the strain. But they didn't. A soldier gritted his teeth, sweat pouring, as liquid fire grazed his arm. An old woman chuckled through cracked lips, her voice rasping defiance. A child hummed a shaky tune, fingers trembling but unbroken. The machines stuttered, their readings spiking into uncharted territory. Heart rates impossibly steady, brainwaves jagged with resistance. VaxKIR scowled at the data, his claws tapping faster. He'd expected collapse. Not this. The aliens pushed harder, doubling the intensity. Skin blistered, bones creaked, yet humans clung to life. Some passed out, only to wake and endure again. Others spat curses, their voices hoarse but fierce. The Zalthari shifted tactics, targeting minds instead of bodies. They locked humans in isolation chambers, pumped visions of burning cities and dying kin into their heads. A man sobbed, then straightened, whispering about a daughter he'd see again. A woman smirked, claiming she'd outlasted worse storms. The machines couldn't keep up, their sensors frying under the weight of human will. The research team gathered, their usual calm cracking. Whispers spread. How could a species so fragile hold so firm? VaxKIR silenced them, insisting there was a trick, a biological fluke they'd uncover. He ordered new tests: starvation, oxygen deprivation, relentless noise. Still, humans adapted. A teenager scratched tally marks into the wall with a jagged nail, counting days. An elder recited prayers, his voice cutting through the chaos. The station's sterile hum faltered as power surged, the equipment straining to match its subjects. VaxKIR's mandibles twitched. He'd never seen a species defy pain's logic so completely. Then came the moment that shook him. A man, gaunt and scarred, sat strapped to a chair after hours of torment. His chest heaved, his eyes burned, but he didn't beg. The Zalthari cranked the voltage, expecting a scream. Instead, he smiled, a faint, cracked grin, and rasped, "Is that all you've got?" The words hung in the air, simple but heavy. VaxKIR froze, staring at the human through the observation glass. The machines whined, redlining, but the man's pulse held steady. For the first time, VaxKIR questioned his own certainty. This wasn't just endurance, it was a challenge. The humans weren't breaking, they were pushing back. He adjusted his stance, his mind racing. Whatever this was, it wasn't in their data, and that gap gnawed at him sharper than any tool in the lab. The Zalthari threw everything at them. Blades sliced through muscle, water flooded lungs in simulated drownings. Neural shocks ripped screams from throats. Pain became a storm, relentless and total, designed to crush even the strongest species. The Creve would have dissolved by now. The Torvax splintered into dust. Humans bled, gasped, faltered, but they didn't stop. A woman, her body a map of scars, rasped that she'd survived worse back home. A man, teeth gritted, recited lines of poetry as electricity coursed through him. Laughter echoed, sharp and wild, cutting through the station's hum. The Zalthari stared, their tools trembling, their logic fraying. VaxKIR demanded answers. He ordered amputations, starvation stretched to weeks, pain signals so intense the machines sparked and smoked. A soldier's arm fell away, yet he snarled, daring them to take more. A child's voice sang defiantly through chattering teeth. The aliens' data banks overflowed, numbers meaningless against this refusal to break. The team faltered. Researchers flinched at the humans' glares. One abandoned his post, muttering about spirits that couldn't be measured. VaxKIR snapped at them, his voice brittle. He'd mastered galaxies, yet these creatures mocked his control. Then it happened. A soldier, motionless for hours, his vitals flatlined, suddenly stirred. The Zalthari had left him for dead, his body a ruin of burns and cuts. But his eyes snapped open, fierce and clear. With a groan, he tore free of his restraints, metal snapping like twigs. He stood, unsteady but tall, and faced the observation glass. "You'll regret this," he said. Not a threat, but a promise calm as stone. The room stilled. VaxKIR's claws froze mid-tap. The soldier didn't attack, didn't scream, just stared, his presence a weight the aliens couldn't lift. The team backed away, their instruments whining in protest. Fear crept in, alien and unfamiliar. The Zalthari had no word for it, no equation to solve it. They tested pain, mapped its edges, but this was beyond their science. Humans didn't just endure, they grew stronger, their defiance a fire that fed on suffering. VaxKIR watched the soldier slump back, still alive, still unbroken. The station's red light pulsed faster, mirroring his racing thoughts. His team whispered of stopping, of fleeing, their voices tight. He ignored them, eyes locked on the screens. The data screamed impossibility. Humans weren't surviving out of instinct, they were choosing to. That choice that will gnawed at him. For the first time, VaxKIR felt small, a shadow against something vast and unyielding. He didn't know what humans might become if pushed further, but the thought chilled him, sharp, sudden, and deep. The station unraveled. Humans, battered and bleeding, turned their pain into weapons. A woman twisted a shard of broken restraint into a tool, prying panels loose until sparks flew. A man, half-starved, rallied others with a hoarse shout, his words igniting hope. They worked together, soldiers, elders, children, passing whispered plans through the chaos. The Zalthari's machines, built for compliance, couldn't handle this. Alarms blared as circuits fried, smoke curling through the halls. The aliens aimed their stun rods, expecting surrender, but humans charged instead, eyes blazing with rage and purpose. "For Earth!" roared from a dozen throats, raw and unyielding. VaxKIR watched, mandibles slack, as order collapsed. His team scrambled, their cold logic useless against this flood of will. A teenager hurled a stolen power cell, shattering a control console. An elder blocked a doorway, buying time for others to move. The Zalthari fired, their beams slicing air, but humans kept coming, limping, crawling, refusing to fall. VaxKIR barked orders to hold the line, but his voice trembled. He saw it now. Pain hadn't broken them, it had forged them. Every cut, every shock had only sharpened their resolve. The humans seized the station's core, tearing through defenses with bare hands and stolen tools. VaxKIR fled to the command deck, his claws fumbling at controls. He issued one final order, not to fight but to abandon the experiment. The Zalthari piled into escape pods, their ships vanishing into the void. The station fell quiet, its red light dimming. A lone human stood atop a wrecked console, chest heaving, staring at the stars through a cracked viewport. He didn't speak, didn't need to, his survival said enough. The Zalthari never returned. On their homeworld, they burned the data, erased every trace of the study. Their warnings spread across the galaxy. Avoid the humans, leave their planet untouched. Their pain is their power, they whispered, voices tight with dread. Not of what humans endured, but of what they might unleash if cornered again. Other species listened, marking Earth as untouchable, its name a quiet legend spoken in hushed tones. Back on Earth, humanity carried on, unaware of the shadow they'd cast. They fought their wars, mourned their losses, built their lives, never knowing they'd humbled a race that claimed the stars. The station drifted, a silent ruin orbiting a dead star, its halls empty but heavy with echoes of defiance. The Zalthari had sought a limit and found none, only a truth they couldn't face. Humans didn't break because they chose not to. There will a force no machine could measure, no empire could tame. That choice, that fire, burned brighter than the dying star outside, and it would burn forever.